Hello everybody, today we are here in my kitchen because I'm going to share with you 5 cozy drink recipes to get you through March, because we have one more month of cold before we start getting into the glorious season of spring. So hopefully this will tide you over. I'm gonna use our Nespresso, but I will also share with you ways to make each drink with coffee. So let's dive in. The first drink we're gonna make together is a salted honey cortado. A cortado is essentially a drink that is made up of equal parts espresso and steamed milk. And then we're going to use a little bit of honey, a little bit of salt. I don't have oat milk at home right now, but if I did, I would make it with oat milk because it makes it taste kind of like a cinnamony breakfast cereal or like Golden Grams. It's really good and I think that's delicious, but we're just gonna use regular whole milk. We also use for a single shot, which is what I'll use for a glass this size. We really like the Starbucks blonde. You can get those at Target. Yeah, let's do it. Let's make the drink.
Okay, so we are using our Nespresso Virtuo line, and we just put the pot in, we pull the shot. I temp our milk to 120 degrees in this as well, especially with the smaller drinks like a cortado or a cappuccino, and that just makes it not too hot. I add a pinch of salt and about a tablespoon of honey, maybe half a tablespoon, depending on how sweet you like it. If you are making this with coffee, it's pretty straightforward. You just use pretty strong coffee, about 2 ounces, and then your warm milk to top it off with your honey and your salt.
The next one, we're going to stick with the honey for a bit longer, and we're going to do a cinnamon honey latte. I'm using like a 10-ounce mug. It's a little bit more like a bowl shape, and we'll use double espresso for this. So for our double espresso, we like to use Bianco Ligaro from Nespresso, and then we use honey, cinnamon, and whole milk.
For this one, I put the honey in first and then the cinnamon, and we use the espresso to kind of melt that down and get it really mixed in there, and then top it with the milk and maybe a little bit of more cinnamon, and sometimes I'll do even a little grind of salt. Salt is nice because it helps smooth out the bitterness of the coffee if it is a bitter coffee, although the Bianco Ligaro, I will say, is not really bitter at all. It's pretty sweet espresso, so pretty delicious. And if you were making this with coffee, I would do it as a cafe au lait, which is just 3/4 of the cup is coffee, and then you top it with warm or steamed milk.
So the next one we're gonna do is actually iced, just in case you're like me and you're like iced coffee all year round. And you can do this hot as well. I just think iced is pretty because I'll show you why. We're gonna use Nutella, a little bit of salt, and I like to have a shaking jar, so I use a mason jar with a lid, but that's not required. It's just my preference. And then I pour into another glass, and of course we'll need ice. Let's dive in.
So the first thing I do for this one is I line the cup, the top of the cup, with Nutella, and then we just put that cup in the freezer to kind of harden the Nutella around the edge and to frost the cup. This just makes it feel really fancy and special. Sometimes you can drink out of the cup and then get a little more Nutella flavor, or you can just use it as a garnish. Then I usually just put a spoonful of Nutella on a spoon and then just pull the espresso right over it and melt it down, the Nutella in with the espresso from there. And then we go ahead and add the milk directly to that espresso mixture. This cools the coffee down and allows for you to cool it before you add ice. If you add ice to the hot espresso, you're going to melt the ice and water down the coffee. So I just add milk to cool it down, and then we will shake it with ice cubes and pour it over ice in that frosted glass. I also added a pinch of salt to this because, again, that just takes that sweetness and makes it a little bit salty, which I just think is a nice little touch. If you are making this with coffee, I would just use cold brew or iced coffee, and I would melt the Nutella down with a little bit of boiling water.
Okay, our next one is based off of something I used to do in college, which is in the cafeteria. I would make free mochas because they had hot chocolate and they had like drip coffee. And so I would do coffee, hot cocoa mix and then put a little bit of cream in there, and it was kind of like a mocha. So now sometimes I'll do it at home because we almost always have hot cocoa mix around, especially in the winter. So we have marshmallow lovers right now, and then also we happen to have some jumbo marshmallows as well, which we don't normally. But we're gonna use these, espresso and milk, and make ourselves a hot cocoa. Dirty hot cocoa.
When you make a dirty chai, or you make a chai with espresso, you call it a dirty chai. So I guess dirty hot cocoa kind of works. But all we're doing here is we're adding the hot chocolate to the cup, pouring our espresso over it, and giving it a good mix afterwards to make sure it's nice and melted and incorporated. And I even use my frothing wand. You can get these for like $10 on Amazon. I use it for matcha, for dalgona coffee, and for things like this. You can just get a good mix in and then pour your hot milk over it. And I gave it another froth. I think there's something so cozy about a nice frothy, warm, hot cocoa. And then just put all of the marshmallows on top.
All right, our final drink is actually a tea drink, and this one is so simple, but it's kind of like making a really easy chai at home without having to like do all the things. So to do this, we just use black tea and whatever kind of spices you have. I like to use like cardamom pods, whole cloves, and then cinnamon sticks personally, and then a little bit of milk and a little bit of sugar, and it's so easy and so yummy.
So you just crush up the cardamom and the clove with, a mortar and pestle if you have one, or you can just use the back of a spoon or something if you don't. And then putting it into your cup, and actually I should have put this into my tea strainer. We're doing that now, so that it kind of filters it out for you. And then I just put a cheap bag of black tea, like this is Lipton black tea, and I steep it for about 5 minutes. And it does the job really, really well. You take it out, add I add brown sugar, and then a little bit of milk. And it's so easy, but you get that spice of the chai with the sweetness of the milk and the sugar. And it's such an easy way to get that chai flavor without having to have chai mix in your house.
All right, that is all 5 of our drinks today. Let me know which one you decide to try in the comments below, or which one you think you want to try. And if you have any requests, if you have drinks that you would like me to try, I'm happy to do that as well. All right, hope you have a good one, and I will see you next time. Bye.